The sun hung low over the wilderness, casting long shadows across the camp of Israel. Moses stood at the edge of the encampment, his weathered hands gripping his staff, his eyes fixed on the distant mountains of Bashan. Word had reached him of what lay ahead: giants, the last remnants of the Rephaim, creatures of legend who had walked the earth since before the Great Flood. King Og of Bashan was their ruler, a titan among men whose iron bedstead measured 13 cubits in length. His kingdom sprawled across 60 fortified cities, each one a fortress of stone walls that scraped the sky. The people whispered fearfully around their cooking fires, remembering the tales their grandparents had told of the Anakim, the sons of Anak, who had made the Israelite spies feel like grasshoppers in their own eyes.
Have you seen them? They are massive!
We are like grasshoppers in comparison.
He had led these people out of Egypt through water and wilderness, had stood before Pharaoh and watched the plagues descend, had raised his staff to part the Red Sea. Yet the memory of Kadesh Barnea haunted him still, how an entire generation had fallen away in unbelief when faced with reports of giants in the Promised Land. That night, Moses climbed alone up the mountain to pray. The stars wheeled overhead in their ancient dance as he knelt on the bare rock. Lord, he whispered, they are afraid. How can I lead them against such enemies? These giants are mighty, their cities impregnable. The voice that answered seemed to come from the wind itself.
I am the Lord your God. No.
Have I not brought you out of Egypt with a mighty hand? Did I not feed you with manna from heaven? Did I not give you water from the rock? Am I not the Lord your God who goes before you as a consuming fire? Moses rose with tears streaming down his face, but they were no longer tears of doubt. He descended the mountain as dawn broke over the camp, and his face shone with such radiance that the people stepped back in awe. Hear me, Israel, Moses proclaimed, his voice carrying across the multitude. The Lord himself will fight for us. What are giants before the God who created the mountains they stand upon? What are walls of stone to the one who founded the earth? The army of Israel marched toward Edrei, where King Og had gathered his forces. As they drew near, the Israelites saw them for the first time, the giants of Bashan. They stood heads and shoulders above normal men, their armor gleaming like bronze in the sunlight, their spears like the masts of ships. King Og himself was a mountain of muscle and sinew, his voice when he roared, shaking the very ground. Fear rippled through the Israelite ranks, but Moses raised his staff high.
Do not be afraid. Remember what the Lord has done. He will deliver them into our hands today.
Remember Amalek defeated when these hands were raised to heaven. The battle began with a sound like thunder. The giants charged forward, each stride covering the ground of 3 normal men. Their war cries were deafening. Their weapons crashed against shields like the breaking of trees in a storm. But Moses stood firm, his staff raised toward heaven, his lips moving in constant prayer. Then the tide began to turn. Arrows found gaps in the giant's armor that should not have existed. Swords struck with strength beyond human capability. The very earth seemed to fight against Og and his warriors. Rocks shifted beneath their feet. Dust rose to blind their eyes. The sun beat down upon them with merciless heat. King Og himself fell before the army of Israel. The mighty ruler of Bashan, brought low like a toppled cedar. His cities, those supposedly impregnable fortresses, crumbled before the Israelites like clay vessels shattered by a potter's hand. 60 cities fell, and with them the last of the Rephaim in that land. When the battle was over, Moses walked among the fallen giants, marveling at the works of God. He placed his hand upon the massive breastplate of King Og and felt the silence where that enormous heart had once beaten. The iron bedstead of this king would become a testimony for generations, a reminder that no matter how great the enemy, the Lord was greater still. The cities of Bashan stood empty now, their massive gates hanging open like the jaws of defeated beasts. Moses walked through the streets of Edrei, gazing up at walls built to withstand the siege of armies, doorways fashioned to accommodate the enormous frames of the Rephaim. Everything was oversized, built for a race that had once dominated this land with an iron grip. In one of the treasure houses, they found King Og's famous bedstead, crafted entirely of black iron, ornately decorated with symbols of power and dominion. It took 20 strong men to carry it out into the light.
Unbelievable.
Moses examined it carefully, noting its dimensions: 9 cubits long by 4 cubits wide. A bed fit for a giant indeed.
This colossal iron bed belonged to the giant Og. See it and know that the Lord fights for us.
And Moses seized the moment to teach. "Let this bed remain as a witness," he declared. "Let it be preserved
Behold
so
the
that
bed
your
of
children
Og,
and your
king of
children's
Bashan,
children might see it
a
and
symbol
remember,
of the giants who
not
have
the
fallen
might of these
before you."
giants, but the faithfulness of God who delivered them into our hands." That night the Israelites celebrated with songs and dancing. The land of Bashan was theirs, vast and fertile, stretching as far as the eye could see. Herds of cattle grazed on the rich pastures.
Look at the size of this
Vineyards
spear.
heavy with
It
grapes
is
dotted
twice
the
my height.
hillsides, and
The Lord
fields of
truly
grain
fought for us
swayed in the
today.
evening breeze.
The miracles we saw that day, the giants, the Rephaim, they towered
Young men
over
examined
us.
the armor of the
Massive.
fallen giants, still unable to comprehend how such mighty warriors had been defeated. The older warriors, veterans of countless wilderness
They were
battles,
massive,
simply
Rephaim,
smiled
with
knowingly.
bronze armor and spears
They
thick
had
as
seen the hand of
masts.
God work wonders
But even
before.
King Og,
They had witnessed the plagues in Egypt, had walked through the Red Sea on dry ground, had drunk water from solid rock. To them, the fall of giants was simply another chapter in the ongoing saga of God's deliverance. Moses sat apart from the celebration, looking up at the stars. He thought of the journey still ahead, of the promised land that awaited them across the Jordan. There would be more battles, more challenges, more moments of fear and doubt. But he had learned the lesson anew. No enemy was too great, no wall too high, no giant too mighty when the Lord fought for his people. As the fire crackled and the songs of victory rose into the night sky, Moses smiled. The giants were defeated, but more importantly, the people had learned to trust again. They had seen with their own eyes that faith the size of a mustard seed could move mountains, or topple giants. The wilderness had been their teacher, their refiner, their crucible. And from it they would emerge ready to claim the inheritance, promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob so long ago. Not because they were mighty, but because their God was mighty. Not because they were strong, but because their God was strong. The age of giants was passing away, but the age of faith had only just begun.